Success is a journey, not a destination. Every great story begins with a spark, a dream, a challenge, a purpose to rise higher. On Journey to the Top, I'm here to guide you through the inspiring stories of those who turned obstacles into stepping stones and setbacks into comebacks. Every week, we'll dive into lessons of grit, growth, and greatness, equipping you with the motivation to scale your own heights. This is Journey to the Top, with me, Mister Motivator. Only on the Achievement Channel, Nigeria's first all-motivational TV platform, broadcasting from the School of Eloquence in Lagos. Your journey starts now.
Welcome to Journey to the Top, broadcasting to you on the Achievement Channel, Nigeria's first and only 100% motivational television network. And we're coming to you from the studios of the School of Eloquence right here in Ikoyi, Lagos. Journey to the Top is a high-level motivational interview series spotlighting veteran achievers, men who have not only risen to the top of their industries or professions, but have also sustained that success over time. These are not men of mere fame. They are men of fortitude, formation, and foresight. Legacy builders, captains of enterprise, founding fathers of sectors, thoughtful statesmen of success. They've weathered storms, made hard choices, and left their marks in boardrooms, in businesses, and in lives. This show takes you behind the milestones, into the mistakes that mentored them, the moments that shaped them, and of course, the meaning that defined in the climb towards success. I am Ubong Essien, Nigeria's Mister Motivator, and today we sit at the summit with one of these distinguished voices to reflect, to learn, and to be inspired.
This is Journey to the Top, with me, Mister Motivator. Only on the Achievement Channel, Nigeria's first all-motivational TV platform, broadcasting from the School of Eloquence in Lagos. Your journey starts now.
Hello and welcome back to Journey to the Top, the conversation series where we sit with elder statesmen of success, men who have not only risen to the top, but have sustained that success, mentored others, and built legacies that time will not erase. My guest on today's episode is the very embodiment of that truth. He is a man who has transitioned from the structured world of employment to the bold world of ownership, executing one of the few successful management buyouts in Nigeria's real sector at the time, acquiring Portland Paints from Lafarge and growing it into a full-fledged paint manufacturing company listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. For over 27 years, he steered Portland Paints and Products Nigeria PLC, first as a board member and then as managing director and CEO. He also chaired Portland Construction for 15 years. But more than just a corporate strategist, he is a builder of people and platforms. He helped found the Institute of Paint Technology at Yabatech, served as chairman of the Paint Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, and contributed richly to Nigeria's manufacturing policy through the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria and the Nigerian Content Consultative Forum. He is also the chairman governing board of the School of Eloquence, and that is my favorite because, as you know, I happen to be the dean at the School of Eloquence. A man of deep faith, he has built churches, funded vicarages, sponsored scholarships, and given back to his community in ways that reflect not just generosity, but legacy. He is a proud alumnus of Christ School Ado-Ekiti, a dedicated mentor to youth, a family man, a club man, and a believer in building up what others may have given up on. Prince Adebayo Olanrewaju Osibo is not just an industrialist. He is a mentor, a philanthropist, and a custodian of excellence.
That was good.
Prince Osibo, my chairman, welcome to the program Journey to the Top.
Thank you very much, Ubong. That was a very, very powerful introduction.
Well, it's the truth, isn't it?
Well,
that's the truth. It's the fact. You have come a very long way.
Indeed.
And having you on this program today reminds me of our first interview. Many years ago. Back then, as publisher of the Achievers Journal, I remember writing you this letter that we wanted to interview you, and you were quite magnanimous, and you granted us that opportunity, and we had this amazing sit down, and I'm sure our viewers will get to see pictures of that interview. Back then, I used to wear suits in those days. And you used to be a suit man as well.
There was no choice. Then you had to be formally dressed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to have you on the program.
Thank you very much.
I'm looking forward to an amazing conversation. But before we get into it, we have to pay some bills here on the Achievement Channel. So stay online. We'll be right back after this time out.
So please keep watching Achievement Channel to keep learning. Thank you.
Okay, shout out to the Achievement Channel. Keep watching the Achievement Channel.
Eloquence focuses attention on the message and the audience.
I found it very interesting, exciting, educative.
It was very beneficial.
Definitely would learn a lot, a whole lot.
Thank you. The delivery was second to none.
Speak with power.
Speak with power.
Speak with power.
Welcome back. It's still Journey to the Top, and my guest, Prince Adebayo Osibo, is poised and ready as we embark on this very important journey, how we got to where you are. But it's important that we start by having you take us back to your roots. Growing up, I think that was in Abeokuta.
It was more in Lagos, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
More in Lagos?
I was born in Abeokuta.
You were born in, okay.
Yes, but I didn't grow up there. I grew up in Lagos.
In Lagos.
Brought to Lagos at age 2. So before I knew what was happening to me, I was in Lagos.
Wow.
So it was in Lagos. And I grew, those very early years were with grandma in Ebute Meta. You know, those areas where everybody was your mother.
That's true. That
every parent disciplined any child.
Yes, it took a village. It took a village then to raise a child. Absolutely.
And you went out to play on the streets. You did everything, and I went to school in I started schooling in St. Jude's Primary School in the Butemeta there.
Was it also in the Butemeta that you attended Christ?
No. Christ School was a secondary school.
Was secondary school? Okay.
Yes, secondary school. Christ School is in Ado-Ekiti.
Okay. Yeah. But then you also came back to Igbobi College. How come? How did you manage, and how did that shape you at that foundational stage of your life?
Okay. Christ School is a secondary school. So I've had my primary school education, and of course, at the end of primary school, you want to go to secondary school. I actually was to go to Igbobi College in the first instance. But because we lived in Lagos, and at that time, Igbobi College said they did not have enough boarding space. They wanted students that live in Lagos to come from home. My mother would not have any of it. My mother herself is a teacher. or was a teacher at that time. And she would not have her son working. We were living in Surulere then, from Surulere to Igbobi in the afternoon, in the morning. In her own idea, that was a whole waste of time, and it gave you the temptation to get into little things, undesirable things, when you are saying you are going to school, you're coming back from school. And they started looking for somewhere else for me. Of course, I've never been out of Lagos before then. And then I started hearing things like Ado Ekiti or whatever. I didn't know where it was. I didn't know what it meant until I came to realize that they found another school for me in Ado Ekiti. At that age, I was only 13. Never been out of Lagos. I didn't know where Ado Ekiti was. I didn't know anywhere. Maybe the only places I knew was Lagos and Abeokuta and a little bit of Ibadan. So they shipped me there eventually. And of course, I like it. I didn't very much enjoy it, but I missed the school after I left. I missed not only the school, missed the environment, and some of my very best friends today are the people we grew up with. We grew up together in those formative years, age 13 to 18. We spent 5 years there. It's still a period in my life I look back upon and I enjoy. And I remember those things. Rich culture, which I didn't appreciate at that time, but when I then left, came back to Lagos, and then I started missing it. Of course, I went for my A-levels in this same Igbobi college as I should have been in the first instance. So that is how that came back to be.
So did that shape you in any way as a person? And you've talked about you met a lot of your friends there, and the culture was very good at Christ School, and then Igbobi College was where you had your A-levels. But that phase of your life, how did it shape you towards becoming the kind of man that you have become today?
In the first instance, at that age, it is the things you did at that age that would really be the foundation for whatever you do in life. First and foremost, at home. Of course, I was at home till age 13 before I went to school. There was strict discipline. My mother was a teacher. In those days, teachers are known with their cane. So she doesn't spare you at home. Then I went to school. Even in Christ School,
I remember you saying you went to the school that she taught in as well.
So yeah, my primary school, she was a teacher in that school.
So you said so there was no room for any form
there
of
was no room for anything.
misbehavior.
She would
both
not
at home
want
and in school.
her own child to be the one that gets punished, to be the one that becomes a truant or anything. But then children will always be children. Of course, when we were going to school or coming back from school, you could always fall into a fight with a classmate, with somebody. Those ones always did happen. However, when I went to Christ School, one good thing that everybody learned in Christ School was the dignity of work, dignity of labor. Because it was a rural school at that time, and everybody had something to do before you went to class. For me, I was in charge of the staff room. I had to wake up every morning to go and clean the staff room. And of course, where the teachers will be, you dare not fail to do it well. They would see it. And everybody had a little bit of work you would have to do in the morning. And of course, when the environment gets overgrown with weeds, we cut it with cutlasses. So the school would declare a work afternoon. We call it compound work. And everybody will be given a portion to cut. That way, we realized that hard work does not kill anybody. And we still went on with our studies. We excelled. It was a very good school that made the name in terms of excellence, academic excellence, sports excellence. Indeed, you went to that school, what you wanted to become was either being a doctor, that's what I wanted to become, it's another story that I didn't become a doctor. You wanted to become either a doctor or an engineer or something big. In any case, we didn't have career orientation in those days. Nobody told you what was good, what was not good. It was more of the influence of parents. It was in the days when your mother wanted or your parents wanted you to be a doctor, and you become a doctor, or then she will be so proud to be known as Mama Doctor.
Yes.
And she will be called Mama Doctor as if you didn't have a name before then. In fact, your name will stop being important.
Yes.
It's now your profession that becomes important. So, in any case, it was more of a science-oriented school. And our orientation was more of science. We loved to be science students. And of course, many of us became science students because there wasn't a lot more to do. We didn't have commercial subjects. It was either the arts or the sciences. So you were either in the science field or you are in the arts field, where you became lawyers. We have a whole lot of successful lawyers. We have a whole lot of professors of other fields. And then we have a whole lot of doctoral professors of medicine in our class, in our classmates.
So you didn't get to study medicine, you settled for biochemistry.
Yeah.
Or eventually that's what you studied.
Yeah, I studied biochemistry because my results, my A-level results, are not good enough for a straight entry into the medical school. But I still had this passion. And I wanted to study the nearest thing to medicine, so that in my dreams, in future, I could go to medical school. I chose biochemistry. But by the time I went through the biochemistry course, I think my ideas about being a doctor had changed.
Okay.
And of course, 4 years is enough time for you to see things differently. And I had become a little bit more mature than that boy that came out of secondary school that wanted to be a doctor at all costs. And I had seen some other aspects of life, and I thought being a doctor was no longer my calling, was no longer worth it.
So you took an MBA?
Yes. After youth service,
After youth
I
service.
went for an MBA, and of course,
At the University of Lagos?
University
and
of
then,
Lagos.
of course, later at the Lagos Business School.
Yes.
And so completely abandoning the sciences.
Oh my God.
Completely abandoning the sciences. Was it the law of the Naira or the law of the money side? What was it that happened? I know you've talked about becoming more mature and having to see life differently. But what was the motivation for you? Because this pivot definitely began to play a major role into landing you in the boardroom environment, which we want to learn a lot more about. What was it that made that change for you?
What made that change was, first and foremost, if I had to continue in the medical line or in the medical school, it would take too long for me. I mean, by this time, you are already in your 20s. I entered the university at 21, left at 24, went for youth service, then went for a 15-month program in the MBA school. You are already 25, 26. If I had to go to medical school, start all over again, 5 years in the minimum. And of course, other opportunities were calling. Your mind became broader, and you could see life differently, not from the prism of being a doctor. So I thought of something else. Business? No. Industry? Yes. And how do you excel in the industry? Go and study business administration, and which wasn't very difficult to get into. I got into the business school in University of Lagos, 15 months straight course, no break. Ended up with a master's degree in business administration. Of course, looked for a job, which was very easy to find at that time. At that time. Even before you left school, you were already being interviewed.
Wow, that's amazing.
You know?
Because you had early careers in Liver Brothers, now Unilever,
Yes.
Nigerian Textile Mills, and WAPCO. So that was really an era where you had a lot of job opportunities and options.
There were very many job opportunities, and even though you really didn't have a lot of guidance, many companies then were good training grounds.
Okay.
I ended up in Lever Brothers for my first job, and the training I had in the 3 years I spent in Lever Brothers served me very, very well. I was on the field as sales manager, and you can imagine at that time the prime product of Lever Brothers was Omo, and the most popular pack was the one we called Omo Medium, sold at 40 kobo. There were others, but it was the one that it was known for, from 40 kobo per pack. And you had a target of 1 million naira per week. Your most popular product is 40 kobo. And you had to make 1 million naira. There was no way you would not work hard. There was no way you would not think of new and old strategies to sell. You can imagine having to sell not in shops, not in modern malls, but in open market. You had your tie and coat on, you are talking to an illiterate mother with a baby on her back crying. You have to present yourself in a way that she accepts you, especially if you are introducing your product. Can you imagine having to sell Vim? I wonder if Vim to a woman in Ijebu, where at that time all they used to clean their pots and pans was ashes. And in any case, coincidentally, the color of Vim was the same color of ash. So they wondered, what is the difference? And you are there. You have to be able to sell. Your boss comes around and he doesn't see the products on the market or on the shelves in the supermarket. You are done for. So it trained us to be able to be focused. And of course, there are whole lots of books to read. They've developed a whole lot of literature on how to sell and the guidance, everything that in your car, you had volumes and volumes of files, which you refer to once in a while, which you must, and you had all to come back to Lagos. I was actually in charge of Ogun State. You had to come back to Lagos and start to write a report.
Wow. That's amazing. It shows the kind of training ground that
it was.
That early phase after university and getting these jobs turned out to be for you. And I know there's still a lot more for us to mine from that experience in your life, and we're going to come right back to it after we take this break.
Okay.
So we'll be right back. And when we come back, beyond him telling us more about that training ground experience, which I think was foundational, we're also going to get into the conversation about the turning point in business. And what's that turning point? You'll get to find out shortly.
Journey to the Top with me, Mister Motivator. Only on the Achievement Channel, Nigeria's first all-motivational TV platform, broadcasting from the School of Eloquence in Lagos. Your journey starts now.
Welcome back. It's still Journey to the Top, and I'm here with our guest, Prince Adebayo Osibo, and he's been reflecting on his early days and how the foundations for his success and his remarkable lifetime of high accomplishments were laid. And my chairman, you know, I call you my chairman because you're my chairman, so I'm sure our viewers will understand. You've talked about the foundations of hard work, of industry, of effort over ease that was laid during your early years as a professional in the corporate space, in sales. I think most of what you did was sales.
Yeah.
And the discipline that it required to achieve those targets. I want us to move further as we look at, as you grew through the ranks, what were the keys that enabled you to get to the high level of becoming the CEO of Portland Paints PLC?
You see, when I left Liverpool, I was still very young, single. So one of the things we did, apart from working hard, was looking for new opportunities.
Okay.
Of course, for a young man, you think you had everything. So you are marketable. Luckily, I was. I got my next job as the commercial manager of Nigerian textile mills. In that position, I was very high up. I was number 3 in the hierarchy. You had the general manager, you had the finance manager, then you had the commercial manager. And I was only 29. I succeeded late Chief Olaya, who was retiring at that time, in his 50s. So it was like a job that was too big for my shoes, or a job I couldn't immediately fit into, but you had to grow very quickly. The job entailed being in charge of the marketing activities, the sales activities of textiles. And we had very big corporate customers. We were the only person making khaki shorts, khaki materials for a school uniform. And we had customers like UAC, SCOA, and some very big individuals coming to make African prints, the popular Ankara. And it was my duty to take in those orders to make sure that they were rolled out without errors. Of course, there will always be printing errors because machines get old, die stuff. But the customer had to be happy. These are not customers where or whom you can sit down with. These are corporate customers whose own corporate objectives must be met. Who, even if the managing director, I remember Brian Thompson, who was managing director of UAC at that time, of course, white. Managing director of SCA was white. And they came with such...
It was an era of expatriates then.
Well, it was an era of expatriates. They came with such high standards that the company had to meet. Nigerian Textile Mills was not a brand new company, not brand new in the sense that its machineries were getting old. The company was not very, very buoyant financially, and we had those manufacturing difficulties that always came up, and they will not accept it. So it became the duty of the commercial manager, who was the man, the face of the company when it comes to selling and marketing, to be able to keep them happy, all sorts of things. But we succeeded one way or the other. I succeeded, and that was another aspect of training. So I was dealing with market women. I was dealing with supermarket people. Right. Now I had to deal with corporate executives because those were the customers of my new company. We had some individual customers as well, some Nigerian businessmen that were big in textiles. And again, it was such a very strict market that if you gave me an order, a design, I dare not give that design to anybody else. It was strictly yours and yours. And if it happened to be a popular design, you will print so many million meters of it before you got tired until you found no market for it again. And I dared not give it to anybody else, even though there was pressure, there was this and that. And khaki was strictly for UAC. You dare not make khaki materials for him, even though very many schools were wearing khaki. And very many school proprietors and management will come and say they wanted to buy khaki. Sorry, we can't. That was the kind of discipline that you had to go through, and the kind of hard work and the kind of quality consciousness that came into the job.
So how long were you there for?
I was there for only 3 years.
Only 3 years. And then you journeyed further.
Then I joined WAPCO as National Sales Manager of Portland. At that time, it was Portland Paints Division of West African Portland Cement. How did I join? I was only 32, and there was this advert, and I said, okay, I could test my market value and see if I would get this job. I didn't need the job, but in my mind, I did not need it. Why? Because I thought I was doing well in Nigerian textile mills. I had a company house, I had 2 company cars, I had drivers, I had everything you could have. At the age of, I joined at 29, left at 32. I think it was very early in life to have had those things. Anyway, young mind, I wanted to test my market value. And I applied. Indeed, I was too young for that job as per the interview, as per the requirements in the ad. You wanted somebody 34 to 40. I was only 32. But there was I could easily pass for 34. My head was already bald. Maybe from hard work, I don't know. In any case, I eventually got the job. I didn't like the conditions because there was no company house. Of course, being a salesman, there was company car. And I had to go and rent a house and everything. So I was a bit hesitant. But my then boss, who actually convinced me to come and join, had a whole lot of things to say. Now, look, you are coming into a company that is part of a multinational, a multi-divisional. You cannot imagine that you will stay here all your life, but it will be a good beginning. This company is so large that you can move from one division to another, and a career is already built for you. He had very sweet things to, and in any case, I was already seeing that Nigerian textile mills was running into problems, financial problems, market problems. And a new beginning or a new outlet would be good for me, for my development and everything. I was so too near to the top at Nigerian textile mills for my age and from my experience. I came in with only 3 years on the field. And I was already marketing or representing the company in the presence of managing directors of bigger companies. It was a good development. But then, Nigerian textile mills was on the brink of decline. So
that was your opportunity as well?
So my opportunity to get, and I'm glad I did. I did, because today, Nigerian textile mills is extinct. Soon after I left, Dangote bought it over, and it's no longer a textile mill. It's now making cement bags. But however, that is another story. At least, thank God, industry continued. So I joined West African Portland Cement as National Sales Manager of Portland Paints Division. Okay. It was only a division. And it was when I got in there, I was working with the first Nigerian general manager. And he was trying to build a new team. Fantastic person. He was also new. He was also brought in from another industry. and he was trying to build his own team. So I was the first person he recruited. He went on and also recruited a company accountant. So he tried to change the structure of the company, put new people that he could work with, people that had the same kind of vision and maybe the same kind of training and exposure that he wanted. And we started. And we discovered that the company was not getting on very well because it was a subsidiary of a bigger company. And it was at the time that Nigeria was going through certain difficulties and import license had to be introduced. We were a subsidiary of a bigger company. We didn't have our own footing. We had to rely on that company, and we decided that why don't we incorporate this company into a different thing that could apply for its own licenses, because we were dealing a lot with imported materials. It was a company, it was a division set up by WAPCO when Nigeria was to host Festac 77. And a whole lot of building materials had to be imported into the country. And that was a vehicle for that activity in WAPCO. So we agreed and it was accepted. The company was incorporated into a separate company on its own, and it had the name Portland Paints and Products Nigeria Limited, which became a company that was then focused on paint manufacturing. We then grew our manufacturing base and grew the product profile, product portfolio, and it was hard work to manage what was a new company, to manage a new image, because it was so heavily overshadowed by the activities of the cement company, which was one of the, in fact, it was the biggest cement company in Nigeria at that time. Whenever you had Portland, you thought of cement. So we had a difficulty establishing that this is not a cement company, it's a paint company. We had to identify with the paint industry, and we had to force our name to be known, not by anything but by hard work, by very, very stringent marketing, by very, very strategic moves, strategic decisions. It was at the time we were selling a gallon of paint for 7 naira, and you still had to give some discount, give up to 40% discount out of 7 naira. So we were able to get the volume. They were able to get the volume. Yeah.
But you were already, as you worked on this new company to achieve all of this, you had higher aspirations.
Yeah.
And that led to the buyout.
No. The buyout came a lot later. A lot later.
Tell us about that, because that seems to be one of the most audacious corporate moves back in the day. I also remember the management buyout by Nemeth, buying out Pfizer, led by Sabo Habua, then incidentally had been on this show as well. And then during the June 12 crisis, buying out Pfizer to create Nemeth.
Yeah.
So why were you guys getting such audacity to attempt such mega issues, or mega, should I say, mega corporate moves? What led to that?
Okay. In this case, in my own case, or in the case of Portland Paints, Portland Paints started growing and becoming bigger and achieving bigger and better position in the paint industry. Of course, it still remained a wholly owned subsidiary of Portland Cement, WAPCO. But we kept making waves, making our strides, and we kept growing in the industry. Now, within WAPCO itself, changes went on. WAPCO was 40% owned by a British company called Blue Circle, who itself got bought over by another company called Lafarge. So when Lafarge bought over Blue Circle Industries, a UK firm, of course, all the assets of the UK firm became the assets of Lafarge. One of those assets was WAPCO, a company in Nigeria that was doing very, very well. The leading cement company with a whole lot of subsidiary activities, one of which was Portland Paints. When they came, the new owners, I think they had to review the activities of the company, and they said they wanted to concentrate on core activity. Core activity being cement manufacturing. Paint and cement did not seem to go together. So they wanted to get rid of that, especially because they thought, not that they thought, they knew they could make money out of it. If they did not take that decision that they wanted to say, nobody would think of buying because it wasn't for sale. And I must say, even I didn't think of buying. But they thought that a management buyout will serve the purpose well. Because they thought that if the management brought it to this level, that they could make good money out of it, then the management would be glad to continue with it. And in any case, they didn't want it in the hands of somebody that would then probably just do whatever, because the name Portland was still important to them. Portland Paints was still important to Portland Cement. So they thought of a management buyout, proposed the idea, and who was I to say no? But then there was the difficulty of finance.
So we're going to come to that bit as you share with us how you went about it and what lessons gleaned throughout that process for those coming behind as they also face and try to navigate challenges of such magnitude. So we'll come back after this break.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
Keep on watching Achievement Channel. You guys are doing a great job.
Oh, Achievement Channel is the best. Achievement Channel is the best.
My name is Azu Ishekwene. I'm the editor-in-chief of Leadership. Keep watching the Achievement Channel if you want to be and continue to remain an achiever. Best.
Keep watching Achievement Channel because my name is Ray Chebri. Please keep watching Achievement Channel.
Okay, my name is Nkechubi and you should watch the Achievement Channel.
Are you in governance?
You need public speaking.
Are you in business?
You need public speaking.
Are you a professional?
You need public speaking.
Now you too can learn how to overcome nervousness and speak with confidence before any audience at the School of Eloquence, the home of public speaking.
Attend our practical and training one-on-one coaching with West Africa's only certified speaking professional at any of our centers in Lagos and Abuja.
To register, call 0802 3032 066 or 0706 1606 078 or log on to our website schoolofeloquence.org. School of Eloquence,
teaching the world to speak.
Welcome back. It's still Journey to the Top, and taking us on this journey back in time is a very successful industrialist and corporate icon, Prince Adebayo Osibo. And my chairman, we're talking about that buyout, 700 million naira at the time.
Yeah.
How was it even possible? How was it even plausible? Who would think that a group of managers could have pulled that off? Tell us about it, because it is a profile in daring the impossible.
Yeah.
What really happened and how did you pull it off?
Well, I must say that it was not my effort, I put it off. 700 million naira at that time was daunting. And there was no room for negotiation. They just mentioned their price. And, of course, I accepted the challenge of owning the company. That was a dream come true, if ever you dreamt like that. It's one of the daydreams you have, that you want to be an industrialist, you want to do that. The question was how to get the money. You won't believe it. They themselves, the company, then introduced me to a British private equity company that could help. But it's not as if they guarantee that it will help, but talk to these people. We know them, they know us. They know this activity is ongoing. Of course, I went to that company. They welcomed the whole idea. But in-house, discuss other things were going on to the extent that that discussion or that objective became suspended. For about 2 years, we didn't get to talk about it any longer. Then they revised it, and it came back onto the front burner. This time, more seriously. By the time I went back to the British company, they said, sorry, we don't do deals this small any longer. Even they had grown. But we can introduce you to a smaller company that we formed that will take things like $5 million. It was $5 million at that time. 700 million was $5 million. $5 million and below. So I went to this company and they said, okay, fine. So we started talking, passing papers, due diligence, results, 3 years. But it wasn't looking very good. Hope kept on. Things were happening in the company, things were happening with me on the outside. I started talking to bankers. A consortium of bankers came together, but in Nigeria, our bankers do not deal with long-term investments. They want you to
smash and grab deals.
All the time we started talking to them, all the time we kept talking. It was like there were 7 banks. It was a consortium. We will have a meeting today, agree another meeting for another 2-3 weeks. By the time they came back, they will come back with new instructions from their
headquarters.
And it wasn't making any headway. However, in the company, things were also happening. And here, I would bring in the work of God through men. It turned out that in the company, some people apparently on the board of WAPCO queried why would there be only one option. Let's have somebody else to even look at the possibilities of buying this company. Of course. And they appointed Chief Oshunkeye.
Okay.
He was on the board as the consultant that will look for another buyer to compete. Well, not to compete in price, because they had made up their mind about that and they had given us that figure. Or maybe that could do it faster or whatever.
Wasn't that going to serve as some form of discouragement? I haven't been given like the first right of refusal.
And that is why I said you need to see the hand of God. Chief Oshunkeye is a man that even if he himself wanted to do it, he could do it singularly, single-handedly. Now he say, go and look for somebody that will produce. That was not anything that was difficult for him. But he invited me. I didn't even know what he wanted me to do, why he invited me. And he talked about this. And I said, yes, fine. We are interested, sir. We are doing this. And then said, look, the board had decided that they wanted somebody else to compete. And I have been given the task of looking for somebody else. And he showed me a letter where he would earn 7% of that buying price, which came to about almost 50 million naira. But he said, because it's you, and you've been doing the work, I will not look for anybody else. Go and continue your work. The attraction of earning 50 million naira was not very important to him.
Even though it was quite some lucrative sum.
Yes, that will set some people on the road looking for. I think in his mind, giving chance to a young person that had worked to develop this to this point was more satisfying to him than another income of 50 million naira. It wasn't as if there was nothing he could do with 50 million naira, but he just thought maybe giving somebody else another chance to grow his money. I thanked him, went away. 3 days later, he called me. By this time, we had a deadline to make a payment of 10% of 700 million naira, 70 million. He said, how are you going? How are you? I said, well, we are trying. Told him the discussion we were having with the banks, told him the discussion I was having with the equity company and everything. He said, okay, keep it up. I have something for you. He brought out an envelope and gave me a check of 10 million naira. This was somebody that was supposed to find a competitor.
And earn his pay.
And earn his pay. Said, look, take this. If you are able to build the 70 million, fine. Use this as part of it to get you there faster. If not, return the money. I was shocked. I couldn't believe that it was happening. From a Nigerian, I thanked him. Also thank God for making me meet such a man. Meanwhile, of course, I told the company, the equity company, by this time I had concentrated more on the equity company because our bankers were, they didn't really make any difference. That I already have 10 million. We were looking for 70 million. Of course, we were to put the money together. And the way they work was that they themselves would take equity in the company and help the company raise the other sum of money. And that was to be, that terminal was to be part of the equity. I was to put up some money. Of course, I had 3 other managers. They were also to put up very little sums of money. It doesn't matter how much you put up. It was whatever you could afford. But we agreed that out of 5 million, we will make 1 million equity. So myself and whoever was in there will bring $500,000. They will bring $500,000. And then we will raise the other 4 million naira somehow. When we made good progress, they then offered that they would give a shareholders loan of 3.5 out of the 4 million, making it very easy. Then there was only $500,000 to look for. That was to come from a bank. Of course, they had relationship with banks. They themselves are people that raise funds to invest in people and companies they have confidence in. So one of their bankers was readily available to give a loan of $500,000. So we had equity $1 million, shareholders loan $3.5 million, $500,000 from a bank, and of course, working capital from the bank. So, first and foremost was to satisfy the 70 million naira 10% deposit. We scaled that, and then it was now buying the company itself. Of course, we had several pages of agreements, several clauses of agreement to go through, and at that point, I left it to them. They were more experienced. The equity company were more experienced in this kind of business and agreements. Of course, you had lawyers on this side, lawyers on this side, and big legal grammar and everything. Half of which I just left to them. I was to concentrate on managing the company and getting it together. Of course, by that time, word had gone out that the company was for sale. Staff had started misbehaving, thinking that their job was coming to an end, and
so you still had to manage.
You still had to manage all that, and that comes as part of your experience. That when things are about to change, people do change.
So, what were the lessons from this? The three major things that stuck out for you, or before we get to that point, so how were you able to finally lock down this deal to take full ownership?
Yeah,
because you had just paid 10%, there was still a 90% to go.
There was still 90% to go.
There's still 90% to
that go. Was what I kept negotiating with a private equity company. And the way they structured it is what I have said. Now look, you bring money, we'll bring money, we will be equal shareholders. But that doesn't even get us anywhere. That's only 1 million out of 5. 4 million, we will give you a shareholder's loan to be repaid at an interest. Fine.
Okay, so that was how
we structured it. Then we all then went out to borrow more money from a bank.
At, of course, the usually atrocious rates.
But did I have a choice? I had my back to the wall. It was either I let go of the ambition or just...
Or found a way to get it.
And the whole idea was that, okay, the company will pay back in 4 years. How you now manage the company to ensure that was another matter. That was my own problem. Finance was their own problem. You know.
So in all this, a milestone accomplishment.
Yeah.
That, of course, as you look back, it was a turning point for you as a person, and your story cannot be told without this.
Oh, without that.
What were the major lessons that life taught you that others coming up can learn from as you reflect on this aspect of your journey from the top?
You know, from that exercise of acquiring the company, first and foremost was that I don't know, I still do not know how this gentleman, this elderly gentleman, Chief Osunkaye, who now my mentor, who over the years has grown to take me as a junior brother and everything, that there are people that will shun the allure of money for making an impact in somebody's life. That was a lesson for me. That you needed to be good. You need not only to be good to yourself, but be good to others. That is one. 2 was that when we eventually acquired the company, it grew from a company that had excess money to a company that was suddenly in debt. So at the end of the day, we had about 1.5 billion naira debt to repay over 4 years. Because we had borrowed money from the shareholder, we had borrowed money from the bank, we had borrowed another sum of money from the bank as working capital. And we had a 4-year
window to pay up.
To pay back. So, for me, the only thing was to run this company efficiently, profitably, to be able to manage. So, you have to be diligent, you have to be focused, and you have to be innovative. You'll be able to think of new ways of doing the same old things, to be able to do new things, to be able to think out of the box, because it was then I realized that making money or making profit is very hard. Because it's from profit that you repay. And from day one, we had a table of how much to pay out every year for the following 4 years. So you had to look at the end of this month, 33 million had to be paid to the bank. 33 million from profit, not from turnover. You have next month so much, next month so much. And it was 4 years of hard work. So the discipline of hard work, the discipline of diligence, the discipline of being focused and not being distracted, the discipline of making sure that everything falls right as much as possible was it. But we had good guidance from the board. Of course, we had a new board, a new board composition. We had good guidance, and everything went well. But the most important thing was the repayment. At the end of 2 years, we were a little bit behind in our repayment schedule. And of course, you know Nigerian banks, for God's sake. Unfortunately, the managing director of that bank that helped us, give us the loan and everything, changed. Another managing director came. And the first thing he did was like, he doesn't want our business. You don't want this business. Why? Because we were about 3 months behind in our repayment. 3 months of repayment in an ongoing company, in a company that's doing well, making profit. It's not too bad, but he didn't want it. And if he didn't want it, he just simply did not want it. You have to make up your money. We started looking for money. It wasn't easy. So we said, okay, let's raise more capital. Let's do more borrowing. But where will you borrow? We had secured that borrowing with all fixed and floating assets. But God did it. We found avenues to raise more money. Not equity. Of course, we put in whatever we had as equity. But the bulk of the money had to come from somewhere. We managed to...
So you were scavenging from every...
We managed to qualify ourselves as an SME. All these loans had regulations. We had qualifying...
So there was that determination, whatever it would take.
You had no choice, for God's sake. If you worked so hard and money didn't come in, because in any case, look, the major product was paint. How many people use paints in this country? Maybe it's only in urban centers, cosmopolitan centers that people paint. Even then, how often do we paint? Our maintenance culture is not that good. People paint their houses
once in
when grandma dies and they want to make burial, or when they want to do wedding ceremony. Go outside Lagos, you find houses
unpainted,
and people live in there. Painting is not painting that will make your house stay. So, but that was then we had to think of other things to do, other activities related to painting. And then we strengthened other activities that were minimal activities, and then we found new ones. And then we brought in specialized products like Emperor marine paints, protective finishes, very strong protective finishes. We managed to become their agents.
So you moved from land painting to ocean-based painting.
Yes.
So it means that odds, pressures have a way of forcing innovation out of us.
Certainly.
If we are going to survive.
If you find yourself in a corner, you'll find a way out. This was business. The business had to grow. It had to grow beyond the traditional things that you were doing. And then we strengthened our sanitary wear business. Not only strengthened it, to even give it a bigger view and to give it a bigger role to play in the economy. We formed it into a company on its own. So we had Portland bathrooms. So that if you are thinking of buying sanitary wear, the name Portland bathroom will strike you. And we relied on the big name of Portland. We also gravitated unconsciously towards construction. How did we do it? Because we had some specialized paints. And in painting, what makes a paint last on your wall is the quality of the wall itself. And so we set out educating people on quality of the wall, not of the paint. A first-class paint on a third-class wall will fail. And in many cases, especially in areas where we had what I will call coatings, not paints, and needed specialized equipment to apply, we were strict on making sure that the substrate was very good.
These were all survival strategies.
And we insisted that, look, if we are to sell this thing to you, this must be, and we must even be the people that will put it on the wall for you.
So that was like value-added services.
And it got to a point where, okay, go and do any repair you want to do, so that you won't say it is because somebody else did it or anything. And we found ourselves over time doing minor renovation works because we wanted to sell our paints. And gradually, we became a renovation company. We actually formed a renovation company. So we had a paint company. We had a sanitary wear company, Portland Bathroom, where we had Portland Renovations. One company became three. And of course, more money was coming in. And we were able to service our loans. And as you are doing renovation, one day somebody, can you build? Who are we to say no?
Because the hard way.
Yeah. How do we build? I am not a construction professional. But all we needed to do was get professionals together. We had an architect on our board. We had an engineer on our board. And of course, we had two very, very seasoned accountants and tax people who I fear. We'll talk about them. So it wasn't too difficult to form a construction company. So we changed the name of Portland Renovations to Portland Renovation and Construction, and later we changed to Portland Construction. Took on construction jobs.
So all these helped you in fully taking ownership of the business in terms of the financial obligation.
Oh yes, because the more activities you had, and if you did well in them, money will come. You were giving services.
So how did it feel for you when you finally paid off all those obligations? You are now fully the owners of Portland.
You were the owner right from the word go, but your ownership could be threatened if your creditors moving. So you had to work as hard as possible to keep them out of the door, which is what we try to do. But even then, at the end of 4 years, we were still a little bit behind. And we had to find the money. And we said, okay, fine. Look, we have this company. Let us get an investor. We were looking for $3 million to pay off the banks, or to pay off all our loans. Pay off the bank, pay off the shareholder that gave us loan. And they are the money managers. I am only the business manager. So they came up with the idea of listing the company. To be able to list the company, we had to do some preparation. So they got Afri Invest, that company that was at that time the last governor of Edo State was the managing director of Afri Invest.
Okay, that's Governor Obaseki.
Governor Obaseki was the managing director of Afri Invest. So they came in, as all accountants will do, carrying big files all over the place, carrying calculators and calculating all the ratios you can think of to be able to determine the value of the company. At the end of the day, at the end of about 6 months of work, they said they would buy 20% of the company for $3 million.
Naira or dollars?
$3 million. I was shocked. The company we bought 100% for $5 million. You want to buy 20% for $3 million. Have we grown the company that big? Has it become that valuable? I didn't realize it. One was just working and making money to keep the company afloat. I didn't realize the value we had.
So much value.
Added. And I'm sure they cheated us. We had our back to the wall. There was nothing we could do. So whatever they brought, we took. I would, in my mind, think they probably will not give you the best. Knowing how weak you are. But even then,
it was a good deal.
It was not only good, in my mind it was fantastic. That have we worked that hard? Have we grown the company that much? We took it. And then we decided to go to the stock exchange to list the company. So they did all the work that needed to be done. They did all the stockbrokers came, everything. We listed the company June 10, 2008 for 10 naira per share. And everybody could pick up a calculator and say, I have so many shares. This is the value of shares. And my brother, everybody became millionaires.
Wow. Fantastic.
You know, the beauty of hard work, the beauty of being diligent, the beauty of being focused. Everything we did reinforced the original business, and we had people on the board that were very, very cooperative. We never had to vote on any occasion, on any issue. Voting comes in when there's a division, when some people are holding strong views and another person is holding a strong view. And they made good contributions for the development of the company. Of course, we did all the hard work, but they did some thinking as well. They made corrections when they see your papers. And my chairman was somebody else.
Wow.
He was an accountant. He's an accountant and a tax person.
Combined.
Yeah.
So I like that part where you said everybody became millionaires by the time you listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. That was like the culmination of all the hard work.
Yeah.
And a great moment to be rewarded for it.
Of course.
And it's proof positive that nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah.
And so you are a billionaire, I think.
No.
I would say that.
That is not the import. That's not the import of that statement.
I get the point that you make. And I asked that question and threw in that comment for those who are watching to understand that the journey towards wealth, towards becoming rich, which unfortunately seems to have undergone all kinds of distortions in recent times, needs to be laid out properly for people to understand that it's a journey. You are reflecting on that journey, the journey that got you to the very top as a corporate person, as a chief executive, as an industrialist. Look at all of the things you had to resort to within the ambit of the law, all in a bid to succeed, to survive. And I think it's something that is worth sharing for people to understand. So it's very much in order to celebrate that accomplishment. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll move into the legacy sides, the other aspects of you, how having become successful in your right, in your industry, what are some of the things that you're doing to extend the value of that success in terms of the way you're giving back and the way you're making an impact on others and the society. And of course, we'll also like to hear more nuggets of wisdom that can make or encourage the younger ones who are watching this journey to apply themselves accordingly. So we'll be right back after this time out.
I just want to advise you, it is best for you to keep watching the Achievement Channel.
Here at the School of Eloquence, our primary focus is on the art of public speaking, because it's a major problem. And public speaking, we must understand, is the raw art of speaker to audience oral communication.
I got a lot more than I actually expected. I have overcome the fears I used to have.
The more you speak, the better you are at speaking.
School of Eloquence is the place you can be, and there's a turnaround. That change you are expecting, you get it there.
Welcome back. It's still Journey to the Top. I have been enjoying my journey through time, back in time, with Prince Adebayo Osibo, who happens to also be the chairman of the School of Eloquence, our board here. And frankly, sir, you know, as I listen to you, I'm reminded of how real success takes time. And you've had to pass through all of that meal to build the wealth that you built. Because most people would look at you. I look at you sometimes when I visit you in your palatial abode. But each time I visit with you, and you're such a humble man, a very simple man who relates to everyone, I'm amazed at how you've achieved or you've accomplished, and you still keep it real. When I see all the things you've also done, it reminds me of how the true epitome of success should be. You take time, you start on a particular course, you build, you face challenges, you do everything you can to overcome those challenges, you stay long enough, reinvent yourself, reinvent the project, but you stay the course until you get to your destination. And that is your story.
Yeah.
That is your story. So we're proud of you. I'm proud to know you, to be associated with you. And I hope as many as are watching and listening can take a cue to understand that success takes time. And having achieved that height, one of the things I know that you do regularly, you are someone who gives beyond yourself. You've participated as chairman of the Paint Manufacturers Association for over a decade. And I know that in that capacity, you were actually pouring out. You were giving more than you were taking in. I know that was part of your commitment to the industry, and you didn't stop there, because I want you to speak to these 2 or 3 things. You went on to help found the Institute of Paint Technology at Yaba Tech.
Yes.
Coming from someone who wanted to be a medical doctor, now becoming a doctor of paint, a lover of paint, and then, of course, your role in Manufacturers Association of Nigeria and the Nigerian Content Forum, how you help position local manufacturing as a critical pillar for national development. These three areas of your life did not leave room for you to make money for yourself. Okay, so what can you tell us that can be instructive about serving others in these three capacities?
Okay. Now, the activity of being chairman of Paint Manufacturer Association was kind of natural. There was the association, and we needed men or people or members to run the affairs of the association to achieve its objectives, because we needed to improve on the general public perception of the value of paints. To see paints not as a decorative
last resort,
but as actually a protective material. You build a house, only God knows how many millions of naira you spend. It's okay, we understand by the time you finish, all the money you borrowed, you've spent, all your savings, you've borrowed money from madam. It's all gone. Yeah. But you need to paint this house. There is no paint you use, however expensive, the value will not be up to 10% of the money you've already spent. But because people do not realize that a paint is a protective material and it protects your investment, they want to go for the cheapest paint. One, because they are broke. Two, because they lack knowledge. So the association needed to project its own values, its own products, not necessarily for any particular company, but for the association in general. And if you will notice, the biggest structures are owned by government, and they are the most uncared for. Look at our police station, our police barracks. Look at our military barracks. That's even better than police barracks. Maybe the last time they got painted was when the contractor handed it over. Even a year before I joined the paint industry. And if ever they got any care, it's because somebody or some organization donated some maintenance as a public, a social responsibility.
Yes. Usually.
Gigantic projects like universities, you find it difficult to convince them that this big hall or big project needs protection. You see paint peeling off and everything. So we were doing that. All right, I became chairman. And one of the observations I made is that the key to success of the paint industry is the quality of paints we make. The quality of paints is determined by the training and the quality of person in the factory making the paints. You discover that without any training in paint technology, we are all there making paints. Who trained us? The best people that we used were people that studied industrial chemistry. And that was because they understood the interactions of these chemicals and everything, and they know which is which. They make the formulations. If there are not formulations, we imported from abroad, because most of the leading paint companies were started as multinational companies. CAP was a multinational company, Baja was a multinational company, Portland was a multinational company, and such stuff. The indigenous companies came up when the technical directors of these multinational companies pulled out and started their own. You know? So, now, I observe that our technical people, in spite of their poor knowledge, would have gone around the paint industry, work for Baja, work for Portland, work for CP, work for DMA, work for... And when there was nowhere else to go, they go and start their own. Then we decided to say, look, there has to be some good quality training. And where will the training come from? We couldn't start a training. Every company had its own training school. Nobody would train the personnel of the other company. That was when the idea of using Yaba College of Technology came.
Wow, that was quite ingenious.
Yeah. And spoke to other managing directors. They didn't see any reason why it should not happen if we could do it. Doing it meant getting the college to accept and getting the equipment. No company will be strong enough or willing to donate a whole structure of manufacturing equipment to the college.
On their own?
On their own. Even I could not do it. My company, Portland, could not do it. So we started on the strategy of talking to our foreign suppliers. You know, in advanced countries, people change, they renew their machineries regularly. If you could please give us your old machines for any aspect of manufacturing, especially lab equipment. And that's how we started. Wow. And we started collecting from our suppliers, even though they were not paint manufacturers, but our equipment had similarities, especially lab equipment, because in any case, we are talking quality. It is
the training.
It is the training, and quality comes from you developing a small sample, and if it is good, then you make it big. So we talked to Yaba College of Technology. There were some initial difficulties because in any case, even they themselves, Yaba College of Technology, could not just take a decision, put money together and start an institution. They had to defer to National Board of Technical Education, let them know they wanted to do this, get the approval in principle, and get all the equipment. And we decided to say, okay, fine. We will give you all the equipment, at least as much as we have. Let us start. It is only when we start that you can get the Board of Technical Education to approve.
That's true.
Even if they do approve, they still would come to do a further evaluation. We started though. It was good. At least we started with our own technical people going there for training, and the industry, the companies were good enough. We were putting money there, we were sending people there, and we were advertising. And we tried to get the college to list it as one of their departments so that when admission time comes, people will see it as an alternative. But the efforts were a bit difficult before success came. there was a little success, especially because we had our own people going there. We had all the machineries. All they did was give us the space. But I understand that today that effort, that department has closed down.
What a shame.
It's quite a shame.
What a shame.
Because it will have been the first and only institute of paint technology in Nigeria. And it will have been a place where people will be trained outside the industry in a college as reputable as that.
Yabatech.
Wow. And then they'll be feeding the industry with quality technical people. But it didn't. It was good for a while. But of course, I left the industry. The head of engineering department at that time that was in charge also retired and everything. The then, what do they call them? Provost?
Provost, yes.
Yeah, of the...
Rector.
Thank you. Rector of the college who supported us retired. And I heard that things just went downhill. So
what a shame. But you did your bit, you played your part,
that's all,
provided leadership when the moment called for such. And I think that's for us here on the channel is what is important. We cannot and should not say because something might not work, this is Nigeria, so we'll not do anything about it. So it's on record that when the time came, you did your duty. And we're very proud and we're thankful that you did that bit.
Thank you.
So let's talk about your faith, family, and the work that you do in philanthropy. I know a lot of very successful people are usually very, very cautious, not wanting to talk about their philanthropic activities. They feel it's something that is very personal, but please, you're free to reflect as you'd love to, because we know that you're doing quite a lot in terms of giving back and in terms of your faith. You've done so much for the Anglican Church and quite a lot of Christian causes in terms of your faith. And how has your faith guided your leadership? I know you did talk about God, the divine intervention, how God came good for you during that moment, difficult moment in your quest for the management buyout. So let's reflect a bit on this, about how your faith has guided your leadership, your generosity, and your sense of purpose. And there is the Sarah Chapel of Praise and the scholarship program at St. David's of Father. What are these projects actually accomplishing, and what do they mean to you personally? Let's hear from you.
You know, I haven't been born into a Christian family. I haven't been a Christian all my life. You cannot but think of Christian values and doing Christian things if you have the ability to, you have the opportunity, and you are able to. These things are driven by one's belief. The Sarah Chapel of Praise started in my house. You know, these house fellowships that it isn't even a Christian, an Anglican. I'm Anglican. It wasn't an Anglican activity. There was this pastor friend of mine in Redeemed Church that wanted a place to use. And we were using on Saturdays, was every other Saturday, my pool side that was big enough for a crowd of about 50 and to sing, give praise and everything. And it was going on well. I was enjoying it, not that I was attending every Saturday, but whether it was Redeemed, Pentecostal or Catholic, it was the same Bible, the same songs we sing, the same, and when they preach or when they say, it's good. It was becoming slightly too big for the poolside. And I had a garage, which was more of a store. Big enough for, when we set it up, it was 120 chairs. And I thought I could turn that into a chapel. And I cleaned it up, did everything that was necessary, and it became a chapel. And I named it Sarah Chapel of Praise. Why did I name it Sarah Chapel of Praise? Sarah is named after my mother.
Okay.
My mother was Sarah Banjoku Osibo. Praise was to give glory to God for all he did. And that was it, Sarah Chapel of Praise. After a while, I got a pastor that would actually be there to preach. I would have been happier if it were an Anglican priest, and then it would continue the spirits and the teachings of Anglicanism. But then what I got was more of a Pentecostal, but it doesn't matter. It was a chapel, it was praising God. And people were turning up. It was becoming busy. But as time went on, I had to change the structure of the entire site. I had to pull down the building, put another structure in there. Of course, it was a setback. The pastor was very disappointed. I said, there's no problem. Let's find land. Who could build a church? And he found land in Agege area. We built a church. But we still retained the name, Sarah Chapel of Praise. So he became a full-time pastor in that church. Or chapel, or whatever you want to call it. So that was that. It was just one idea that started as a small thing that grew. And after my retirement in 2014, my home church, that's the St. David's Anglican Church, wanted to elect a Babajo. A Babajo is like the patron of the church, the patriarch of the church. And they elected me as Babajo. In the Anglican Church, a Babajo is not just a spiritual leader. He is also somebody that supports the church financially. Of course, any church in Nigeria needs support. Even if they don't need it, they pretend that they need it. So you have to give to them. But my church was a very poor church. In a village in Ofada. You may have heard of Ofada, but not know the place. But you have heard of Ofada rice.
Yes.
Okay. That's the village that produces Ofada rice. We had the church, which we built over time. Then, to have a church is to have a priest, a vicar, to head the church. The residence of the vicar, which is the vicarage, was uninhabitable. So we had to provide a vicarage. But who will do that? One way of doing it is to start making contributions. That will take maybe about 20 years to do. So I decided that by the grace of God, I'll give them a vicarage. Put a vicarage there. A 4-bedroom apartment and an office for the vicar to do his work, to do everything. And of course, they allowed me to name it after my mother. Well, I cannot forget her, my mother, because it's her own hard work and her own level of discipline that made me what I am today. I said she was a teacher. And teachers in our days were disciplinarians.
That's right.
And not only that, she then moved from being a teacher, she was deployed into the army by the Federal Ministry of Education. So a teacher becoming in the army was even more strict.
Double discipline.
Double agony for the children.
Wow.
But looking back, you cannot but ascribe
pay that tribute to her.
Pay her tribute.
Well, it's like Abraham Lincoln that said, all I am, all that I have, all that I ever hope to be, I owe it all to my mother. So I think your story is similar to that.
And
as you reflect
another
on
thing that drove all this in her name was she was Anglican, all right. But when she became a little bit older and unable to go to church regularly, she was holding fellowships in her house. We had moved out. All I knew was that people were praying in her house or anything. And then she joined the Redeemed Church. That was because the people that are holding fellowship in her house were not people from the Anglican Church, but people from Redeemed Church. Okay. She didn't Redeemed Church as long as it was God, as far as I'm concerned. And you know, Redeemed have this scheme of house ownership on their camp. They give you land free of charge. You build a house. The church owns one room. You have the others and all those things. And she went into that scheme. But when she wanted us, especially me, to participate to build the house for her, I was very reluctant. Because when I saw the agreement, like, you're just building a house for the church. In my head, not for God, but for the church. The agreement says if you have any reason to leave, the house reverts fully to the church. I was a bit reluctant. Now she died. She died at the age of 82. Mama Gio, Mrs. Adebayo, came to the wake keep, and she said, from my mother's sitting room, they developed 21 parishes of Redeemed Church. I felt bad. This was something we didn't even know. That 21 parishes of Redeemed Church came out of the fellowship and prayer sessions we were holding in her living room. When did all this happen? All I knew is that before she died, anything she had,
she gave
to Redeemed Church. It came to a point that I was wondering, but look, I have to tell you about Adebayo, why? But so I felt bad about not even completing that house for her. We then completed it in her name after she had died and gave it to the church. So that's why most of these things are named after her.
At least in memory of her. And so thank you very much. As you reflected on that aspect, let's now go to the final aspect of our reflection. The final of our reflection, which is reflections from the summit, legacies, lessons, and leadership for tomorrow. Those who are coming behind, what legacies should they be drinking from? Looking at your own journey, what are the lessons in leadership that can guide them from all you've accomplished? If a young entrepreneur, a young Nigerian entrepreneur, sat across from you today, what are the 3 most important principles you'd offer for building and sustaining success?
That's very good. And this kind of thing had come up a lot of times because I have mentees, just like I have mentors as well. Today, I still talk to my mentors, even about personal problems. Of course, not a lot of work problems any longer because I retired how many years ago? 14 years ago or something.
Okay, but not tired. They're still very active.
So you still take your personal problems to them because they know a lot more. And they can offer you. Today's kids, even though the environment has changed, but the principle of success has not changed.
That's right.
there appear to be many more opportunities, and they seize these opportunities, but not all of them can hold it for long. And they appear to be in a hurry. So the first thing to tell them is to work hard at whatever they are doing. Everything is there for you. Choose one where you think you have the experience, you have the skill, you have the knowledge. And be studious about it. Be focused. They need to be focused. They need to be diligent. And it's not a question of looking at what other person is doing and thinking it is better. You may see beautiful, glittering results. You don't see the problems. And that's why you need to be focused. If you are focused on your business, you'll grow it. You'll understand it better. And it will grow. And you'll be happy you did. But if you abandon it halfway because something looks better and you go, or you add an unrelated activity to it, no, you are only one person. You can't do everything. It's better to you get better at what you do it well, and mark your achievements. Our young ones are in a little bit of a hurry. They don't like the grind of hard work. Because hard work is not easy. In fact, that's why it's called hard. It's not easy. And you need some discipline to be able to go through it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I want to thank you very much, sir. This has been a very enlightening journey, telling us, showing us how it has been for you as you reflect from the very summit and sharing these insightful nuggets with us. And I got to know a little bit more about you, aspects of you that you never shared during our first interview, and getting to hear a lot more of that. So I want to thank you for joining us on this program. And you've heard it, viewers. It's really, really about hard work, hard work, hard work. Hard work means just that, hard work. You apply yourself, stay focused, and be willing to remain consistent. I'll be right back.
This is Journey to the Top with me, Mister Motivator. Only on the Achievement Channel, Nigeria's first all-motivational TV platform, broadcasting from the School of Eloquence in Lagos. Your journey starts now.
Wow. My chairman, I really want to thank you for all that you said. In fact, we could actually go on and on and on because this is a masterclass in life. You're just reflecting on your journey to the top. And I know there's so much more, and we are definitely going to have you back. We know we're sitting at the foot of a legend, at the foot of what we call statesmen of success, listening to so many of the things you've gone through to get to the heights that you reached and the lessons from it. So we're thankful, but before we let you go, it is very important to extend this conversation. And so before we bring this inspiring conversation to a close, we have a very special tradition here on Journey to the Top. And that is called passing the torch. This is where you as a special guest gets to honor or gets the honor of nominating someone else, a leader, a legacy builder, a veteran, an achiever whose story deserves to be told in this format. So, yes, you are on the hot seat right now. You are on the spot. And I know you've met so many people, you know so many men and women of sterling qualities who have journeyed to the top. And it is going to be very helpful. It will be helpful if we had them sit here and reflect on their journey to the top, to the inspiration, or rather for the inspiration of many others. So, who is it going to be?
Do I have to give you a name now?
You have to give us a name.
No.
Yes, you have to give us a name.
I'm a bit hesitant.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Flashing across my mind now are many names, many people. If I drop a name now, and the gentleman is unavailable, unwilling, or whatever, I'd rather you give me a task of coming up with someone. I could even go on with more than one person. And then I'll put them on a queue.
All right, so flashing across your mind now are names.
Yes.
Let's hear the names.
Oh my God,
then
come to the same.
Yes, let's hear the names. Then we will task you. We will task you, because the concept of being on this show is that at the end of your appearance, you hand over the baton.
Yeah.
Let the flow, let the journey of inspiration continue from one person to the other. And let that become a legacy that lasts and lasts and lasts. So it is our tradition. You must at least name names.
Okay.
If you have names, or if you have a particular person, we'll take it, and I'm sure we'll work out the details as to who gets to appear next, based on their willingness and on their availability.
Okay.
At least we will know that they have accomplished so much, deserving of us chronicling their journey to the top, or their journeys to the top. So
it's very easy to name people.
Yes.
It may be not easy to bring them in here. And if you put their name out now on TV, so to say, because we have a channel.
Yes.
And this is something that anybody could watch and watch and watch
Absolutely.
again. It's
you just mentioned
we are on YouTube.
Yes.
Anybody can
yes,
see us.
notwithstanding that is that as you rightly referenced in your admonition to the younger generation, that the times have changed. It's all in the same spirit of the times. When I remember there was this challenge, it was a health-related challenge, and globally they wanted to call awareness to that challenge, and they wanted CEOs to get involved, to lend their weight. And I think it was something bucket challenge, where a top CEO would actually take a full bucket of cold water, chilled, and pour it on themselves and say, now, so if Bill Gates would do it and say, I'm now challenging Mark Zuckerberg. So it was like passing the baton. And what that did was it extended significant awareness to that condition, and a lot of effort went in that direction. That's the same spirit here. So it's a challenge. Name names, and we'll reach out to them. We'll tell them this is the Achievement Channel, and I'm sure they'll be more than glad, as many of them as possible,
to showcase their achievements.
Yes.
We have this common friend, Dr. Mark Mojola.
Oh, okay.
You know him. I'm sure he'll be glad to come.
Yes, Dr. Mark Mojola. Yeah. I think is he still the chairman at Vitafoam, or has he retired now?
I'm not very sure.
Okay. Yes, I know he will be more than happy to be here.
I have another corporate friend who I went to school with, who grew up the ladder in Guinness, retired as a director, then started his own business. Indeed, I must say, he contributed to the development of things in Portland Paints when I bought it over, because I had to enlist him for training, for making anything. I'll bring him here. He is Mr. Biola Popola.
Okay, Mr. Biola Popola, that's fantastic.
There are people that cut their teeth in industry, went out into private business, did not even wait for retirement age like we did. In that category, I have quite a few friends in that category. My reluctance is...
Okay, we'll take the two you've given us.
I'm not being...
Yes, we'll take the two you've given us. Dr. Mark Ojola is one fantastic example. He is an amazing man that appreciates value. On his recommendation alone, when you invited him to the School of Eloquence, but very well, when we were opening the GRA Center then, and it didn't take him 30 minutes to direct his entire management team to attend the school. And we've been in touch, and I've had the privilege of interviewing him as well.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Oh yes. So he's a man that I know so well, and it would be nice to have him here. We will be reaching out to him, and of course, Mr. Pukola as well. We'll be reaching out to him. So we want to thank you very much, sir, for the time and for the wisdom you've shared with us on the show, and we continue to wish you good health.
Amen.
You're not tired yet. I can see that you're very active, and we continue to wish you many more successes.
Amen.
There are still peaks to be climbed, and
still many mountains.
And we pray that the good Lord continue to reward all your efforts. Amen. Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you very much.
As it is our tradition here on the program, we try to also leave a little bit of our own legacy with our guests, who have been so gracious to make out the time to share from their depth of wisdom. So, Prince Adebayo Osibo, my chairman, as I always call him fondly, it is a pleasure and a privilege to extend this token of appreciation to you on behalf of the channel, to say, well, keep on journeying to the top. I'm trying to get the, all right, this is, this is a rudder. The rudder itself signposts direction. You have navigated life very well and very successfully.
Thank God for that.
And having succeeded, you have now become an inspiration, and you are leading us on our own journey to the top. So this is symbolic of your navigational capabilities. It's a maritime symbol, and to say, please keep on navigating. There are still many more glories to be had.
Amen.
And many more destinations to be reached. Thank you very much, sir. A token of our appreciation to you.
Thank you very much, my dean. That's my name for you. There are times I forget the name. My dean. This has been, the last few hours I've been here, have been very, very inspirational, and very encouraging. And it feels good to be recognized as having achieved something, whatever that thing is. And I thank you very much for this recognition. Indeed, my time on the board of School of Eloquence has been very rewarding. And I've learned many new things beyond what I learned in the master class.
Well, you're the chairman.
And I thank you very much. More grace to your elbows, more grace and development and achievements to the School of Eloquence and the Achievement Channel. The Achievement Channel will certainly grow. It's new, but people will get to know it. And with the programs that we have now, certainly it will grow to something that people will want to be showcased. People will now ask us to come and put them on the Achievement Channel. Because a lot of people have things to say, honestly. A lot of people have achievements, even though our country on the whole is looking a little bit bad, but we have a lot of good people. Indeed, I'm wondering if we can bring people that are even older than us.
Absolutely.
I can bring my mentor here.
Please, we'll be glad.
Please,
we'd love to have him. And you sit in on the interview as well. Maybe you'll be the one to interview him. We'd love to have that. Thank you very much, sir. Truly a great honor. Thank you very much. And there you have it. Another chapter in this archive of excellence. On Journey to the Top, we don't just celebrate success. We extract the lessons, we highlight the grit, and we pass on the wisdom from men who have truly earned their stripes. These are not just industry leaders. They are the architects of legacy, teachers of time-tested truths, and mentors to generations yet unborn. Remember, this show isn't about glamour. It is about the man behind the milestones, the courage to begin, the clarity to decide, the character to endure, and the conviction to leave more than a mark, to leave a model. Thank you for climbing with us today. I am Mr. Motivator, And this is Journey to the Top on the Achievement Channel, where we continue to see possibilities. So until next time, keep climbing, and when you reach your summit, pass it on.